Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to begin. If anyone's feeling a bit lost, feel free to put any questions in the comments, right? Just to let you know, this is really nerdy stuff. Oh, Precious, please, I need to share the screen. I've been disabled from sharing the screen. I think you need to make me the co-host. So this is really nerdy stuff we're talking about. This stuff is perfect if you want to like really deeply go into the topic. I totally accept it's not for everybody. Okay, if it's not for you, I do apologize. If it is for you and you're looking for like really deep understanding about sexual energy, I think you're going to find this like really amazing and really cool. So here we go. Right. Step into your, let's go down so you just have me up here. Right. Step into your divine Eros power. So we started yesterday and I've left a couple of the slides from yesterday in here. Just for people who I thought may not have been here last time, right? Okay. I'm going to explain about the background now, right? Because I didn't explain the background, and if you've seen my stuff, you probably see I use purple a lot, that I might have this universe picture quite a bit. Now, Taoism is like an ancient philosophy from ancient China, right? Some people can call it a religion. I call it like an energy science and a way of understanding our body and a way of working with energy in a deep way to basically be able to manifest the life that you want. Now, most religions, or a lot of religions, talk about looking to the sky and praying to a god and holding the hands out and so on. And in Taoism, we simply talk about the light in the universe. We talk about the violet light in the universe. How, for example, if we can actually even ask the violet light in the universe to balance the energy in the body. And also, actually, if you practice sexual transmutation, and we're going to talk a bit more about that tomorrow, we'll briefly touch on it today, but we'll go way more into it tomorrow. What you're actually doing is combining your blue orgasmic energy with red love energy, and you're creating purple energy, which then goes through your cells, heals your cells, rejuvenates you, makes you younger, and actually sort of connects in with the violet light in the universe. So that's just a bit of Taoist trivia that some of you may find interesting. So for those of you who didn't come, let's say hi to Aphrodite, the goddess of sexual love, fertility, beauty, abundance, pleasure, passion, gorgeous woman, right? And she's really like tying into all these qualities that we might say qualities of the flesh, you know, having our body, having the things we need. It's like about creating a beautiful, amazing life here on the physical plane. And her bad boy lover here, Eros, who's the god of love and sex, he's a little bit mischievous. And again, yeah, let's look at this beautiful energy, right? I mean, what we're talking about, we can say like, you can use a word like saying this is really spiritual stuff we're going into, but ultimately we're keeping grounded in the real world. The mischievous personality is really, really important, as is loving juiciness, loving pleasure, loving our body, loving abundance, loving having what we need. So who am I? So my name is Jade Lotus, and just so you know, I've studied and practiced Taoist sexual alchemy for years. Through this practice, I managed to blow the lid off of my anorgasmia and simultaneously cure chronic health problems, addictions, and start manifesting creativity and abundance. So we're starting here with this PowerPoint, but later on, we're going to go a little bit more freestyle, and I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about my story as well. So I studied with Taoist Grandmaster Mantak Chia. Just to mention, I'm also a certified instructor. I learned to practice and teach the ancient Taoist art of sexual transmutation. And I'm also a certified Tantra educator. I've helped thousands of people to get in touch with their sexuality. I have a degree in Chinese medicine. I also happen to have a degree in law as well, which was a long time ago. But here's me with the amazing Master Chia. And okay, so I'm going to just repeat this for people who watch the video later, for anyone who didn't arrive, putting a disclaimer or whatever we want to say, right? These are powerful energies that we are working with, and they must be respected. Many Western people have played with these energies and harmed themselves. These energies can give us really amazing experiences if we learn to use them safely and properly. They can also cause us physical, mental, and so on other problems. I mean, if you wonder, why is almost every other Tantra teacher we hear about these days being accused of abusing this person and raping that person and so on and so forth? They're playing with these energies and they're not doing it safely, essentially. So the Taoist practices that we look at are taught in specific ways and in specific orders. Malpractice can result in serious and permanent health problems. Now, the exercises that we're doing today are safe. They're safe for you to do. They're safe for you to go home and do. Okay. What we're doing today, what we're doing over this 3 days, right, is we're doing like a tiny percentage, like 5% of what the practices actually involve that we're going into. Because they need to be learned step by step as you slowly learn to basically what we learn to do is how to cultivate energy, how to grow energy, transform energy, how to refine energy, how to store energy. Yeah, so these problems like taking practices out of context, for example, learned from a book. Tantra, in my opinion, is largely mistaught today. Many Tantra teachers take Taoist exercises out of context and teach them incorrectly. So I just saw that a teacher that I thought was actually quite a good Tantra teacher, that she was doing a Tantra course, but she took one of the Taoist exercises and taught it, but didn't do the one thing that we always say is like 100% essential, which was store the energy at the end. And actually, I was speaking to someone the other day who did that course and ended up with some kind of problems with his energy and his health after, so it's really important. And obviously, these are ancient traditions. This is an ancient culture. We really need to respect what this culture is about. And yeah, Kundalini energy is a real thing. This energy is not a toy. But today we are going to get energy activations. We're going to start learning skills. We're going to learn about cultivating energy. We're going to learn about transforming energy. And everything that we're doing today is completely safe. I'm not going to teach you things, even if you've never heard about this before. I'm not going to teach you something here that is going to cause you any harm, but do respect it. And I definitely recommend, don't go and buy them, the multi-orgasmic man, and start masturbating vigorously while squeezing your pelvic floor. It is not a good idea. So let's start looking into energy blocks, right? So yesterday we started talking about basically the fact that our energy starts in the perineum. It moves up the body. If it's if it's flowing smoothly, everything in the energy system is going to work perfectly. And our whole body, like, we're going to end up like having really, really great health and basically being able to manifest the things that we want to manifest, having like full body orgasms, amazing, juicy, healthy lives. And well, we'll go a little bit more into in a little bit what this is all about, but let's look at what are blocks to this activation. So energy moves through our body like blood and lymph. In fact, there's a strong correlation between the flow of blood, of lymph, and of qi. So in Chinese medicine, when they talk about qi, they're kind of talking also about the way that blood and lymph flows in the body. So blocked energy can be felt as lumps around the groin or the armpits, coldness in the body, as well as pain and stiffness. And those lumps are an interesting one. And often people will feel them around the armpit, maybe coming down the arm. They might even feel like tenderness here. When they do this, it can go into the breasts. It's around the top of the legs, the pubic bones. if you feel around there, you can just try touching on yourself, around your groin, around your armpits. See if you can feel any kind of lumpiness around there, which is indication of energy blocks. And generally, if the energy is blocked up here, we say it's like a block to do with the heart. And if the block is at the top of the legs and the lower abdomen, is to do with blocked sexual energy. So bad posture, scars, and injury can block energy, but these are not the major causes. So if I give an example, imagine there's an energy meridian that comes all the way up my back and into my head. Now, if I'm like this, obviously I'm going to be blocking off that energy. The same as if I'm like this, I'm going to be blocking it coming back down again. When we're kind of like this, we block the energy. However, when we go into these positions, there's generally like an emotional element to it as well. So the main cause of blocked energy is repressed emotions. So like if our heart is like quite shut down, we can often kind of be a bit like in this position. These are not negative emotions. So it's not about some emotions being bad and some being good. I absolutely don't buy into the fact that they're bad and good emotions, maybe except just hatred is not a good emotion, but the rest of them, these are all parts of life. This is an intelligent messenger system that's here to keep us safe and to help us to basically progress and move through life. So blocked emotions, unprocessed emotions, they get stored in our body. They cause tension, they block the blood, the lymph, and the chi in the body. This affects physical and mental health, and also how we manifest our lives. So, how are blockages formed? So, all humans are born into the world with an original programming that would cause them to understand life and behave in certain ways. So we can look at people, and actually it still exists today, that there are tribes, right, where people are actually naked completely. As we put it, we call them uncivilized. They're probably the most civilized people on earth, right? You know, they're not taught morality. Maybe they don't even read and write, but they're very in touch with their bodies and in touch with nature. And in fact, I mentioned at the bottom here, the Yekwana, there's some really interesting anthropological research into the Yekwana that, for example, they don't wear clothes, there's no sexual morality, there's also no crime, no sexual harassment, no women complaining of being, you know, sexually harassed. There's not even aggression and violence between the people in the tribe. They also seem to have like almost no muscles and yet close to superhuman strength, which all makes sense when you look at what I'm about to talk about here, because basically their energy is not getting blocked. And they actually even pair bond for life as well, with nobody telling them what they should do. We can see like there is actually today some people still more or less living in the Stone Age who basically are still living according to their original programming. So this original programming, it would cause them to understand life and behave in certain ways. And this has a lot to do with how our energy flows and the process of alchemy. We're going to go into this shortly, what that is, the process of alchemy. So education and moralization are forms of programming that take us away from our original programming. They work by creating belief systems that block our energy. We can call these morals. So the kind of dominant view of Western culture for quite a while has been that unless a person is sort of punished and made to feel guilty and shameful, people are going to become evil, basically. Probably you believe, and me too, that quite the opposite is true. So education and moralization are forms of programming that take us away from our original programming. They work by creating belief systems that block our energy. We can call these morals. A naturally programmed human being has a sense of appropriate behavior that is not governed by guilt and shame. So it's like a positive approach instead of negative. This can be seen in tribal societies like the Yekwana, who have no morals, walk around naked, yet pair bond for life and do not have sexual harassment. So let's look at a typical process of how blockages are formed in modern people. So humans come into the world with the expectation of certain experiences. These include close physical affection from the mother and are needed to develop a healthy mentality. So for example, the Yekwana will have the baby and they'll hold the baby close to them for 9 months. And at 9 months old, they put the baby down on the floor and it crawls off. Okay, obviously in our culture, women are told to let the baby cry, to only breastfeed on certain timing and so on and so forth, which actually for the child, it can be quite a horrific experience. So when this is absence, emotions are experienced that cause trauma because the baby cannot process this. And if a baby is being left to scream on its own, it has no sense of time. So it's as if it's in this eternal hell of being sort of rejected, essentially. So often the result is that at a very young age, a deep distrust of women develops. And obviously we can see our society has a deep distrust of women. You know, women tend to be disbelieved, whereas men tend to be believed more than women. So children experience their first burst of hormones around 4 years old, 3 or 4 years old. This results in genital touching. So it's not a grabbing the penis and jerking off, but it's just kind of putting the hands down there. You've got your sensations, you're touching a little bit. And if the child is admonished, it causes negative associations with the feelings of sexual energy. At a young age, children can learn that sexual energy is harmful. So for example, even before the age of 10, boys have often got this feeling that their penis is somehow a bad thing. Girls can feel that there's somehow something shameful about their own sexuality. But of course, sexual energy is an inextricable part of us, and it's something we naturally want to know more about. The feeling of tension caused by the dissonance with the natural flow of sexual energy and the education causes enormous amounts of tension in the genitals. And children start vigorously masturbating to release it. So the energy is waking up, it's trying to rise. Morality and education is pushing it down, and it's caused this huge amount of friction, like a kind of a pressure cooker. So looking at porn, education, and energy blocks. The young child's original programming knows that the energy must flow. Wriggling children are trying to activate their life force, but we tell them to stop moving and sit still, and the energy stagnates, resulting in the various health problems like ADHD we find children being diagnosed with today. Lack of affection from the mother causes a deep trauma. This affects the child's ability to love themselves. They develop a belief that women will always betray them, and an energy block develops in the solar plexus to protect their heart. So it's very, very common, especially in men, that there's an energy block right there. It's also very common that there's an energy block in people in general around where the pubic hair is. So that tends to be guilt and shame that's down there, whereas this is like real fear of being hurt that tends especially to develop in men right there. So the porn industry seems pretty aware of this dynamic on some kind of a level. So they know how to tap into the traumas, the pain and insecurity of the young child, which of course is why styles of porn which show women being degraded, being abused, being hurt is extremely popular, because it sort of taps into this unconscious trauma and gives the man, and it can be women, because obviously women watch porn, but you don't have quite the same dynamic of addiction going on with women. So obviously, just to be clear, all of this stuff, it can apply to men, it can apply to women, but there's certain paths that women tend to go down and certain paths that men tend to go down as well. For example, if you're a woman and you're betrayed by a woman, it's a bit less traumatic than a boy being betrayed by a woman. Also, the fact that girls tend to be raised with more of a kind of acceptance of them talking about their feelings and crying and so on, whereas boys are generally not given healthy tools to be able to deal with their emotions. They're told to absolutely repress them on all conditions. And this all contributes to the problem. So you've got a little bit of a combination of, we do tend to be energetically different. Of course, you have some women that might be more masculine, some men that might be more feminine, people falling within transgender categories, and so on and so forth. So these are generalizations, but they can tend to help us understand what goes on with people. So it's not unusual for boys to be addicted to porn at 10 years old. So like a kind of study done by some tech company that somehow they could figure out the age of people watching porn. They actually found out that 10% of people watching porn are below the age of 10. And I speak to a lot of men that are now in their 40s or 50s, that say often around 10 is when they kind of porn use starts. So this serves to sever what existed of the connection between the heart and sexual energy, and it destroys their ability to connect with women. So, of course, it's not the fact that images of naked people or watching naked people or people having sex on video in itself is harmful. It's about the way that it's put across by a certain industry. So, for example, back in the 90s, you had erotica movies. They showed plenty of sex, showed a whole story, showed a connection between people, showed love. And very much, if we look, how does the body work? How does the physiology work? We looked yesterday a little bit at the autonomic nervous system. The way our body works, even though we're in the modern age, is not really any different from Stone Age people. And people would connect, would tend to feel love. They didn't have the kind of stress we have now. And there would be a connection of the love and the sexual energy. What our society talks about these, dark sides or sinister sides of sexuality, talking about pedophilia and sexual harassment and so on, this is the result of the sexual energy not being connected to the love energy. And in Taoism, we're going to go into this more tomorrow, but in Taoism, we say there needs to be like a healthy connection between the love energy, the sexual energy, that there's 50-50 in each, and that there's a good stream of energy going backwards and forwards between the two. So let's look at what is a healthy energy flow. Our raw energy, or Jing, arises in our perineum, which we call the Huiyin. So Jing, people often say Jing is sexual energy. Jing is much more than sexual energy. However, when you feel horny, that is the feeling of Jing. So Jing is the raw material that humans, animals, plants are made out of. We can say Jing is more like DNA than sexual energy. It holds a lot of information. So it holds ancestral information. It has quite a kind of like magical power that it does connect us to other people. The fact we have Jing, it connects us to our ancestors who carried our Jing, handed it to us, the people that will come after us as well. But it's basically the raw energy. We could imagine it as like an iron ore, untransformed energy. And it does more or less arise in the body, right in the perineum. If you put your finger between your anus and the sexual organs, it's a small gap, right, that perineum. You should normally, people will feel a little dip and a little sensitive spot there. You should feel something unless it's very blocked if you put your finger there. I recommend be very gentle with that point. I know other people don't. I always recommend be very gentle with touching your pelvic floor. And in terms of pelvic floor exercises, a lot of problems with the pelvic floor is caused by tension in the pelvic floor. I recommend to do gentle pelvic floor exercises, that they're much more effective than harsh squeezing of your pelvic floor. So the natural flow is that it travels into the belly to what we call the lower dantian. So in nature, for example, looking at like Stone Age people, traditional people, where they don't have the kind of programming that we have, naturally that energy just rises up into the belly, which is a kind of the first transformation center. We call it the lower dantian, and there it transforms into chi. So imagine though, the person, the young person, the child, that they're being told your sexual energy is shameful. They're already blocking that energy from actually rising into just the first transformation center. So this is where the sexual energy goes into vitality. And imagine how many people there are that, you know, are just stuck in that sexual energy. You know, I mean, they use the term things like porn addiction, sex addiction. In a sense, I don't think those terms are quite correct, because it's blocked energy. You know, the energy is blocked. It's causing all of this irritation, all of this frustration, you know, to varying degrees in people. And when it's not even moving up into that first transformation chamber, it's really like having a terrible negative impact on the whole health of the body. And that's why you have these kind of no-fappers talking about how they stop using porn and masturbating so frequently, and they end up getting a lot more energy in their body. It's true, but at the same time, if someone's masturbating or ejaculating a lot and they just cut it out, it can also block the energy and cause other problems with the body. So it's good to always listen to the body and just do things in moderation. The chi spreads through the body. So imagine in your belly. Let's just quickly look at the next picture. Okay, beautiful. Yeah, so this is a lovely, beautiful meditator who's got his 3 dantians all really active, right? So the energy is coming from here in the perineum. It's rising up there. The jing is transforming into chi, and then it's rising up, right? So let's go back. Okay, the chi spreads through the body and revitalizes the body, and when it reaches a high enough level, it starts to collect in the heart. We call it also the middle dantian, where it then transforms into Shen. So Shen has a few meanings. Shen is like our original spirit that lives in our heart, which we see as a kind of sparkle in someone's eyes, but it's also a more general energy, which is Shen with a small s, which I kind of call it love. I think love is the most similar word that we have. So the process of this transformation creates a purple energy, which spreads through the body and regenerates our body on a cellular level. So it regenerates the cells, it regenerates the glands. And there's a big theme in Taoism of rejuvenating the body, sort of almost like becoming immortal, basically. That's all based on this. And there is some exercises, and actually tomorrow we're going to be looking at an exercise about how to actually bring the sexual energy straight up into the heart, because there's another channel we could do that, because the body is complex. There's not just one channel, there's a series of channels basically. And different things are going on all at the same time. So it's not just one thing. This is quite a complex system. So we're just going over the most basic details of it. So when the energy reaches critical mass, it then starts to collect in the upper dantian. So quickly going back to this picture. So we have the chi coming up, the chi forming here, coming up into the heart. In the heart, the Shen is forming, is coming up here into the upper dantian. So it collects in the upper dantian, which is also referred to as the crystal palace. That's right in the center of the brain. It's the area which houses the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, and the hypothalamus gland. Obviously, we can see big parallels with the chakra system here, just being referred to and understood in a different way. There's absolutely no contradiction between the two. In fact, they work together. They're just different layers of it. So there it transforms into enlightenment Tao energy, and it activates the pineal gland and higher consciousness. So I'm just wondering here, we actually have gone over quite a lot of stuff. Does anybody have any questions here about this? Don't worry if you don't get it right now. It's complex stuff. No, it looks like not right now. Okay, great. Okay, the repercussions of morality. So when children are told that their sexual energy is wrong, they tense the area above the groin to try to block the energy. Instead of the energy rising up the body, the tension grows in the groin. In the boys, this often results in sexual frustration and urges, excessive masturbation, porn addiction, and lack of control of sexual energy. In girls, it can result in, I'm using the word nymphomania because what nymphomania, I used to have nymphomania, which means you want lots of sex, but you cannot get an orgasm and you cannot get fulfilled, right? Okay, anorgasmia, and as well as other sexual problems as well. So actually, if we look at like rates of sexual problems in our society, I think they say 40% of men have premature ejaculation. That's just blocked energy. ED, unless you get to an age where you're talking like 60, 70, you can be 70, 80, 90 years old and have a completely healthy erection. If you're reasonably healthy, you practice, certainly if you're practicing Tao exercises, you can be 90 and 100 plus with a very healthy libido and sexual functioning. So yeah, I mean, it's funny how if you talk to doctors, because I've had clients come to me with sexual problems that I ask them sometimes what the doctor says, and it's unbelievable. I mean, one guy with premature ejaculation, which is like an energy block, and he was saying the doctor had actually told him, okay, before you have sex, you're going to take this thing like an antidepressant, which just like mongs you out, and then you've got to take Viagra. And it's like, what? Every time you take sex, you're monging out on some, you know, antidepressant, and then taking a Viagra. It's like pretty not a nice way. We're going into this. Can you put description screen up? I'm not sure. What does description, does that mean stop sharing the screen? I'm not sure what you mean there, Ingrid. The block in the solar plexus. Yep, we're going to start talking about these blocks. We're really, really close. There's not as much PowerPoint today as there was yesterday. Okay, we're getting into that and we're going to start looking at it. So healthy sexuality, according to Taoism, consists of 50% orgasmic energy, 50% love energy, with the heart and sexual center connected by a flow of energy. So we call that arousal energy, we call that orgasmic energy. I don't know if anybody here has not gotten hold and seen my ebook on orgasms. Definitely make sure you get hold of that. You can, however you found me, Instagram, Facebook, or whatever, message me there if you don't know how to get it, but you will find the link for it is pinned to the top of my my Facebook group. So and this one, we have this beautiful healthy sexuality, right? Yeah, there's not any kind of like sex offending, sex crime, sexual problems. A lot of mental health problems can be avoided, but obviously we're looking at, you know, we're going to come to this in a minute. A lot of the problem is basically trauma on various levels. And of course you can think, you know, someone grabbed me down a dark alleyway and raped me, I'm traumatized. It can also be my aunt found me with my hand in my trousers when I was a kid and I got punished and I'm traumatized. My mum didn't hug me when I was a kid and I'm traumatized. You know, trauma is not necessarily some big, huge incident. It's just these experiences that we're not processing here. So, okay. When this is not connected, all the behaviors morality tries to prevent manifest. So it's like it's becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy, causing these problems that it's trying to prevent. which we can probably say we've probably done that ourselves, right? Is what we're programmed to do, because our whole like existences are based on this idea that we as humans are like inherently wrong and our bodies are inherently wrong. So all the behaviors morality tries to prevent manifest, and we are left exhausted and eternally unsatisfied because we can have sex, but we miss the deep meaning of it that is programmed into our DNA to experience. So signs of blocked energy, we can look at physical or mental health problems, sexual problems like anorgasmia, ED and PE, pushy sexual energy, being controlled by urges, tiredness and fatigue, feeling stuck in life, being uninspired, inability to finish projects, money problems. These are some of the very common signs of what happens when your sexual energy is getting blocked. So, and this is like something I just find like so incredible and so magical. And it's looking at what is the purpose of our sexual energy? What is the purpose of sexuality? So humans are the only animals who can regularly practice sex purely for pleasure purposes, or we say purely for pleasure. When you look at it from the Taoist perspective, this is about health, this is about creativity, this is about manifestation. So although it is believed that some female animals may orgasm, so like it is believed pigs may orgasm, I think it's kind of hard for them to tell, but it seems like at least some, I don't know if you've seen animals having sex. I've seen dogs having sex. It doesn't always look like they're having the greatest time, but we as humans have this absolute ability to have all of this amazing, incredible recreational sex, which society tells us, oh, it's just about pleasure and we better not do too much of it or it's going to mess us up. According to the alchemy system, the sexual energy serves to feed our body and to activate the experience of spirituality. Without any education or moral programming, a human naturally has the experience of sexual energy rising to promote love in the heart. The experience of love then activates the pineal gland to produce DMT, and higher states of consciousness naturally occur that connect us with our spirituality. So nobody needs to tell us anything. It's all programmed into our bodies. It all works perfectly, except that society has messed this up. And we can just look around us and see from the level of highest government right to the bottom, business, everything is playing this like messed up sexual dynamic. But fear not. So, energy awakening, and that, of course, is what we're all here about today. So we are educated or programmed to believe that life is all about the physical realm. That 1 + 1 = 2, right? But sometimes it doesn't work like that. 1 + 1 can equal 1,000. In fact, most of what is going on in our reality is governed by energy, which also very much ties into the subconscious and the autonomic nervous system that we mentioned yesterday. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I definitely recommend make sure you watch that video that I've put up on YouTube about yesterday. Magic is the ability to interact with the energy realm consciously and to manifest. Your ability to do this is dependent on the energy you have access to, both in terms of quantity and quality. There is a direct correlation with your sexual energy being awakened and flowing smoothly, your health and your wealth too. This exists and on multiple levels as well. And it's about understanding that there's much more to life than the logic we are programmed with. So in a moment, we're going to go into looking at emotions. And I want to just open up the floor and just invite, if anybody wants to actually go on and actually speak verbally, ask a question, any discussion about this. This is some stuff that I'm sure that people have questions, people have comments. Feel free to ask me anything that you feel like asking. If you're feeling shy, put it in the chat.
Hey, Jade. It's
Hey.
Ingrid. Hey, so I just wanted to clarify what I was saying, because I was just trying to type quickly. And but you were on the one slide where you had the process of the energy moving through the body. And I was just trying to see all the steps, and you had moved from it. And I was just wondering if you could pull that one back up, because I was kind of taking a note on it when the process of going through and transforming into chi and going up into the pineal. Like I didn't get all the way through the end of just the notes I was taking for myself.
By the way, I'm going to make sure that my assistant emails you guys my PowerPoint from yesterday, the one from today, so that you get the PowerPoint.
Oh, okay, great.
I wanted to put it onto Facebook, but for some reason, Facebook won't let me put a PowerPoint there. And there was some way that you were supposed to be able to do it. It seemed like a little bit complex. So it didn't happen. Yeah, I didn't manage to get it up, but I'm going to get these PowerPoints sent out to people. What was it? It was talking about those different steps. Hang on a sec.
Yeah, it was the one slide with its steps. It was talking about how the raw energy in the perineum transforms all the way up to the pineal.
Yeah. Okay,
I was just looking at the bottom of that and just trying to see the whole steps. Yeah. I think it was like the third to last one from what you just did.
Yeah, okay, I got that here again. So no, sorry, I went back to the start. Oh, there we go. This one.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Does anyone have any comments on this? Any questions?
I remember when you were talking about this, and you're talking about the Jing coming from our ancestors or our parents.
Yes.
Can you say more about that?
Okay, sure. Okay, so I mean, when they say Jing, because these Chinese terms, they're written like a kind of almost like a picture, so there's some books about Chinese medicine where it literally the woman Elizabeth Rocher de la Vallée, she does these amazing translations, and I think she does write literally a whole book just about this character Jing. Some of the characters will have like a whole chapter on it. I mean, you can go quite deeply into what Jing is, but essentially the way that term is used, it's what we are made out of, like us in the physical level. This is Jing, the flesh is Jing, and I think the closest word probably is DNA. People often say Jing and they mean sexual energy, but I would say the closest word, it's something like DNA, if that makes sense. Is that what you wanted to know, or? Does that answer the question?
Sorry, I was muted. I said DNA is more clear. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the closest thing, it's like DNA. Yeah. Okay. All right. Anyone else want to ask anything? Any more questions?
Jade, is that blocked energy that you talked about when you talk about people having lumps, and that's kind of an indicator physically? Do they relate that to like lymph at all?
Exactly. Yeah. So blocked energy, definitely, it blocks up the lymph really badly. It blocks up the energy flow. I mean, everybody has blocked energy, but it's a matter of a degree of it, and with these practices, a major part of these practices is about unblocking the energy. Now, the way that I teach this, basically, we go through this like 5-week process of learning to unblock the energy. So what we talked about yesterday, we talked about using breathing and using like movement to unblock the energy. But basically, now in a minute, we're going to start looking at like these more specific Taoist, like kind of typical Taoist techniques about, you know, how to unblock the energy. But these exercises, they're so incredible because, you know, if we go see a psychologist, and obviously it's not to take away from psychologists, I saw maybe a psychoanalyst years ago for a couple of years, and it really helped me learn to kind of articulate things and maybe get my head around things. But it kind of got to this certain point, and then it wasn't going any further. And when I discovered like Taoism and Tantra, I think I really like, first of all, I did this first 5-week, I mean, it took me a lot longer then at the time, because I've put this, the way that I teach it now is I've put it in a way where it's much easier to learn it faster, basically. So I went through over a couple of months, this first process of just learning. So we're going to look a little bit about how this all works, like later on, right? Of how to basically like start unblocking the energy with these techniques we're going to go into. But yeah, I mean, like in Taoism, we literally talk about like massaging into your abdomen, massaging around your groin, just on yourself, you know, massaging your breasts, because you have like the physical exercises, you have self-massage, you have the breathing, you have the cultivation of energy. The main bulk of it is the cultivation of energy, but the physical exercises with the body. So it's like, look, we all have blocked energy, right? And everybody can get a blockage. I might be sitting here and maybe I'm like, you know, feeling a bit like, oh my God, there's these people watching me or whatever. I go down a bit like this. I'm like, oh, that hurts. Yeah, which is a little energy blocking. Then I'm like, oh, sit up again. Feeling better. Now the energy's flowing again, you know. So yeah, it's happening all the time, but it's about just it not getting too excessive, because obviously if it gets really, really excessive, then we're going to end up with something like cancer or, you know, a severe mental illness or you know. And when people have sexual problems, and I mean, when I had my, you know, I think I realized when I was 21 that I was anorgasmic, I wasn't having orgasms. I spoke to my doctor, I spoke to maybe a psychologist, and I was kind of just dismissed. It was just, there's just pleasure. It's just a little thing. It's not, you know, I was having all these other problems, like really bad anxiety, terrible insomnia. I was addicted to cannabis to be able to, you know, actually fall asleep. I couldn't sleep without it. I would get in a massive panic if I didn't have it there, you know. Yeah, other things that was going on. I mean, I remember I was never really like completing my projects. I was just a lot of like lostness. And when I start learning these Taoist exercises and unblocked my energy, like so many things fell into place. And really, I mean, given the fact I did have like a very traumatic upbringing, like as a teenager, I had a lot of really traumatic stuff happen to me. I mean, I actually grew up in a cult, and some of the people I grew up with in the cult, quite a few of them actually like died in their 30s because it was like so stressful, like what we went through. And I was going down the path where I think I could have definitely gone, you know. And then I discovered these exercises, and I've managed to like, you know, get myself into like really much better health, like much happier, resolved, like pretty much my traumas. Obviously, I mean, I do think, look, you can process all your traumas and heal them. Your mom's trauma is going to come along, your grandma's traumas, whoever, they're going to keep coming, because we are transformation chambers. And once we've transformed our stuff, we're going to just start transforming for the whole world. Yeah, which is really cool, and it's really fine, you know. But yeah, I mean, you know, and I catch myself sometimes, I might be a day or two being like, oh, that's blocking up there because of whatever. Then I'm like, okay, I'll go to my exercises, I do my practices, I keep it flowing, you know, keeping myself healthy and keeping, you know, aware. And with this, it's like nobody is perfect. Nobody has to be perfect. We're humans. If you look at the gods, you know, look at Aphrodite, look at Eros, look at all those gods. They were all like terribly imperfect beings, because even we can be like a kind of a god and still be imperfect, and trying to be perfect is almost like an imperfect thing in itself. It's not good to kind of try to be perfect, you know. We just should be human. We should just be real. We should be what we are. And rather than hiding, you know, what makes us unique and our quirks and weirdness and so on, to actually embrace those aspects and be unique individuals, you know, and make up a more interesting society. So do we have any, did that answer, Ingrid?
Yeah, thank you. I think what I got from that is just like that it's holistic. It's not any one, it's not just physical. You also you're dealing with it on all levels, from spiritual and mental and emotional. And, you know, so yes, it is lymph, and yes, it is the spiritual, and yes, it is the emotional. So it's like the Tao is working on all of those layers. That's what I kind of got from what you shared.
Exactly. And say, for example, if you look at acupuncture, right, we have a physical body, and we know full well, look, people take medicines, Western medicines, and they get cured of diseases. Antibiotics probably save millions and billions of lives, you know, but obviously there's side effects, there's problems that can come with various kinds of Western medicine. There's many conditions Western medicine cannot treat. Now, there's all these conditions Western medicine doesn't understand, and people go have a couple of acupuncture needles put in them. For example, I used to have chronic eczema. I had 3 acupuncture sessions. This is how I got into it. I didn't even believe that they would work. And my chronic eczema that I'd had for years just disappeared like that, just into thin air, because it goes into the energy field. And I think the energy field that holds together the physical body and the spirit body. And in some way, the body, when these various things are going wrong and problems, you know, in the body, it's like the spirit is telling us something, you know, and it's about our evolution as conscious spiritual beings to understand, like, what is this sickness being? What is the symptom in the body meaning, you know, and to figure it out. And I think this is like, obviously it's great to go and get acupuncture. I get acupuncture all the time. I love lying there and getting the needles in me and everything. But when you learn to actually understand and take control of the energy yourself, it's really like, I mean, when you think about like all these people put to death as witches, like over hundreds of years, you know, and what did they do? If they did anything, they did this kind of stuff. They understood about energy, basically. And you can see why, like when people are kind of maybe, especially a lot of that was going on at the time that people were getting really into like logic, Greek logic, 1 + 1 = 2, and all this kind of rationale and way of thinking, you know. So for them, looking at this kind of magical world and people that were doing things that were unexplained, even if it was just growing a lavender plant or, you know, something like that, it became like a kind of a frightening thing, although thankfully in the end logic sort of ended the witch trials, even though I think in some way they kind of begun them as well, although obviously there's a big element of like power and control to it. But when we can start to learn to do these things ourselves, we're really like tapping into like an incredible, amazing power that you know, I mean, even in a way, I do understand when people go, oh, witchcraft, it's like a bad thing. Well, it can be a bad thing, you know, in the sense of like, literally, if I sit here and I cultivate my energy. In fact, I remember my first like Tai Chi teacher, and I learned some great things from him, but I was just realizing more and more this guy was like so angry, and then he was like trying to control me, and then he was trying to tell me what to do in my life that had nothing to do with him. And I was like, wow. And then he like sacked me as a student because he said I wasn't a good enough student, I wasn't like obedient enough, and so on. He was doing Tai Chi, but he wasn't doing these inner alchemy exercises which we're going to look at shortly. And when we cultivate and we increase energy, we need to be very aware about the quality of the energy that we are cultivating, because if we cultivate energy but we haven't made sure it's good energy that we're cultivating, we can amplify some really weird qualities. I mean, like I mentioned at the beginning, like there's so many of these tantra scandals, for example, you know, and I think people that kind of were okay but then started activating their energy without doing certain healing within themselves, of healing of the traumas we've just mentioned, especially I think to do with lack of affection from mother, and then things all start going and they think what they're doing is okay, and it just ends up being that, you know, it's not. So do we have any more questions before we move on to the next, looking at how to put this into practice? So let's just stand up. Yesterday we looked at some
Hey,
movement.
Jade, I just want to say, I think I saw somebody put one in the chat.
Oh, something's in the chat. That's right. Oh, I love this question. It's hard when the culture is against us to allow them to innocently touch without telling them, but they have to do it in private. Yeah, I know. Yeah, my daughter started doing it, and I was even like, even with everything I know, my programming came up, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And I was a little bit shocked. And yeah, I mean, you know, we can tell them to do it in private. You know, I think also talking about emotions. I think also, you know, there are people around, plenty of people around that didn't learn Taoist stuff, that grew up in our society, that are, you know, not suffering with these problems. There's plenty of guys that are not misogynists, that are not, don't have premature ejaculation, that aren't creeps, and so on, you know. So there is like, I mean, I think that a huge part of it, personally, I think it's so important that people, we're really giving our kids love, we're really giving them healthy affection. I mean, say for example, where I live in Portugal, which is a little bit more of an old-fashioned society, there's a lot of men around, and younger men, that they don't have female friends, they don't know how to approach women, they don't know how to talk, you know, talk to women. They kind of are, you know, they'll meet a woman and kind of want sex within like 5 or 10 minutes, but then they're kind of like, yeah, but I haven't had sex for years. And it's kind of like building up this, oh my God, I really need it. And then they're going at the woman with this energy, and it's obviously going to put the woman off. And then it's an increase in this, oh my God, you know, I think also basic lack of like social skills, you know, maybe like also an attitude of seduction is just a thing of the past, not, you know, maybe like copying behaviors that's been seen on porn and so on. You know, there's plenty of people doing that. There's also plenty of people who don't, plenty of people that fall in love. And I think having like feeling love from parents, having a healthy affection, obviously we got to give our kids certain guidance, but I mean, I have to say, like, my daughter is a very wonderful person, and there's very few times I've, you know, even shouted at her or punished her or anything. I mean, I try to keep rules to a real minimum. So just the basic of, you know, healthy diet, and just be kind to other people, which she also is an extremely confident person. So she can kind of understand if someone is unkind to her, that's that person's thing and not her thing, you know. So I do think like really actually make the kid confident but loving, and they learn loving by being loved, you know. And having this strong loving energy balances the sexual energy. So, you know, I mean, when we think about it, like there's been billions of parents doing what they think was best, which was absolutely traumatizing their children, and somehow most people have come through it like in a reasonable condition. So yeah, there's a great kids book. Oh, what's happened there? There's a great kids book, a couple of kids books that are actually teaching Taoist practices to kids, by, I keep talking about her, I'll put the name in the chat, Lisa Spillane. Just check out Lisa Spillane. She's got 2 children's books, which is teaching. So it's so cool to see. I think that there's a few people I've like connected with here. I'm just having a look at all of your names. Not all of you I know, but some of you I know, and it's really great to be in contact. I think quite a few of you came yesterday, probably know me like from social media. I hope that we can keep in touch as well. So let's have a look at some exercises, because somebody asked, how do we unblock the energy? And it's obviously we're looking at how do we do it now. But it's a process. But given that, you know, people can spend 10 years talking to a psychologist, the process of it's fairly fast, considering that people can sit down and pretty much unblock most of the stuff in about 5 weeks. They can get the main bulk of the problems cleared out, and then over the next 5 weeks use and actually activate the sexual energy to basically clear out the rest of or just the bulk. You know, we don't have to be 100% pure and perfect. We'll always have a little bit of a trauma or a bit of a blockage, and that's completely fine, you know, but the bulk of it, so that things are mostly flowing clearly. And I mean, there's also a lot of this gets stored in the sexual organs. I'm sure you guys have seen my genital reflexology worksheet and know about how certain emotions are stuck in certain parts of the sexual organs, and there's meditations. Hey, okay, so sorry, can you just explain a little bit more what you're asking about? Why is PE not okay? Do you mean premature ejaculation? Why is it not okay? Are you asking? Okay, I mean, why do you think that it is okay? So I'm not saying that certain people are negative or certain people are positive. I'm not saying that they're not either, but I'm saying it's an energy block. So I mean, there is some people that do say it's not a problem, right? I mean, if you're making love with women and you're fine about the woman like not being satisfied, or, you know, you're missing out on really a lot of the sexual experience. And also, yeah, I mean, if you want to have this kind of a deep experience of sexuality, I think that you need to find a way to channel the sexual energy up your body instead of just, you know, because what it means is that the sexual energy can't move up the body. It's stuck in the sexual organs. So I don't know if that makes sense, what I've said just then. I think that maybe tomorrow, what I talk about tomorrow might help to understand that. But I suppose if someone is living, because if you think about it, right, you know, the premature ejaculation, like we talked about yesterday, it all relates to the person being in a state of flight or fight and driven by shame and guilt when they're having sex, and that blocking the energy. So if you're so ashamed and you're so guilty about sex, it makes perfect sense that the sex is going to last like a really, really short amount of time, and it's going to be finished sort of quickly. But I guess the question is, do you want it to be like that? If that makes sense. Perhaps let us finish this, and then you can ask a little bit more like at the end if you have any more questions around that. So understanding emotions. So the emotional world can seem like a complex place. And when we lack the tools to process emotions, we will end up manifesting chaos. And if you're just repressing all the emotions into your body, you're just going to be like causing yourself physical health problems, mental health problems probably as well. I mean, in terms of this question about actually I'll go over that later, but when our whole bodies is just full of a lot of repressed emotions, we can repress them in, but they tend to kind of have a way of getting amplified, and especially around the experience of sexual energy, that they tend to get amplified. So understanding the science of emotions is essential to hone your manifestation skills. Emotions are actually pretty simple when we start to understand how they live in our internal organs and how we can transform them. We can use intention to build the energies that we want and to clear out any blockages. We can even use intention to take the gifts inside negative emotions and transform them into highly useful energies. So if you think negative emotions are bad, let's have a think. Yeah, I'm walking along and suddenly I end up standing right on the top of a cliff, and I'm looking down and I'm shocked and I'm afraid and I freeze and I don't fall off the cliff. Who is telling me that fear is a bad thing? It just saved my life. Negative emotions are messengers, but when we don't know how to listen to the messages, they become like a chaos, and we end up with like so many negative emotions telling us so many different things. It becomes like a kind of a cacophony that we keep feeling that we're trying to repress, but that is just not going away, and it's almost getting worse all the time. And this is basically why negative emotions have a bad reputation, the same as sexual energy has a bad reputation, simply because they're misused. So let's introduce ourselves to the cycle of the 5 elements. It's really, really central to this. If you can see this, I highly recommend make sure that you've got my genital reflexology worksheet. Precious, if possible, could you put the link for them to get the genital reflexology worksheet into the chat? Because that's got all these diagrams in it as well, although you are going to get this PowerPoint and you are going to get the recording and everything. So we're talking about the 5 elements in Taoism. They might be a little different from the fire element, the 5 elements, you know, but we have the fire element, which is the heart, the earth element, which is the spleen, the metal element, which is the lungs, the water element, which is the kidneys, and the wood element, which is the liver. We don't need to worry about both organs. We'll just worry about the one which we call the main organ. Now, why do we talk about these 5 elements? Let's just go into that for a moment, because actually, according to like Taoist philosophy, right? So we originally are like one spirit being. And when we come into the world, into the physical realm, when we're kind of manifested into an embryo inside the mother, our system goes into shock, because it's so shocking to become physical that our soul fractures into 5 pieces. And these 5 pieces go and form and become what we call the 5 organs. And each one of these pieces gives us a desire. And out of the desire arises emotions. So this is why in Buddhism, they say desire causes suffering. Try not to desire. In Taoism, we say desire causes emotions. Balance your emotions. So let's have a look at the desires that are created here. The fire element, the heart, it creates the desire to connect with other people, and the feeling of love, which can also have its other side, which is hate, when we're not getting that connection need met. The liver, it gives us the desire to manifest in the physical world. So a healthy liver energy is going to allow us to create projects, to really manifest what we want in the world. And when we're trying to manifest, if that manifestation is somehow sort of blocked, the result is anger. We can say the other side of that, we say it's kindness. The metal element, which gives us the desire to connect up into the universe, we actually say the main emotion there is sadness, because sadness causes us to look beyond the mere physical realm and to see the bigger picture of things. So sadness is the emotion of the metal element. The other side of that being, we can call it courage. So courage balances. So it's about two balancing forces, two balancing opposing forces. The earth element, it gives us the ability to be in the present and to be balanced and to be grounded, gives us the emotion of trust. And the water element, it gives us, we just say the drive, it's just general drive, the willpower. And this is very much dictated by fear which processes and creates wisdom. So it's drive and wisdom, I suppose it would be both of those. And we say the balancing factor to fear is peacefulness. So we're just going to look now at, I mean, it makes sense this, because obviously we feel love in the heart. You know, when we say, I love you, we give a picture of a heart. We don't give a liver, we don't give a kidney. You're probably familiar with some of these ideas. I'm sure that you've experienced or seen someone who's drunken far too much, acting like an angry bear the next day. I think the kidneys and the relationship with the adrenal glands, flight or fight, is very obvious. The stomach, we've all probably experienced butterflies and worry in the stomach. And the lungs, I don't know if you've ever had a loss and maybe you've had a cough or difficulty breathing, if you can relate to that one as well. And this is, by the way, all of Chinese medicine. So acupuncture, which is a very common thing, it's all based around this. So let's look at the positive emotions, and we're going to do like a little meditation around this as well. Let me quickly check what I've got there. Okay, so you guys can take that. I definitely recommend get that. I think it's like a PDF about, it explains about the emotions a bit more, and it explains about genital reflexology. So let's just have a look at these beautiful emotions. And actually, when we see this cycle, it's quite an interesting thing going on, because if we look in nature, we take water and we can see the water feeds the tree, it feeds the wood. And we can take the wood and we see the wood, it feeds the fire. And then the fire burns, and the ash, of course, it feeds the earth. And then the earth, it feeds the metal, which is formed inside of the earth, of course. And then we actually say that the metal feeds the water. And it's because it's like the minerals in the water are essentially metal, forms of metals, right? Oh, why is my computer not charging? Okay, now it's charging. That's better. Okay, so we can see the colors, we can see the emotions, we can see the even perhaps we can see how peacefulness can feed kindness, kindness can feed love, love can feed trust, trust can feed courage, and courage can then feed peacefulness. Now, let's have a look at like our first like proper Taoist exercise, although we did a little kinds of Taoist exercises yesterday, right? Let's have a look at, right, okay, what do we do in Taoism? We cultivate energy. We transform energy. And we move energy, we refine energy, we store energy. So let's have a look first at cultivating energy. So wherever our attention goes, oh, what's going on here? So bizarre. That's better. That was just some issue with the charging computer, right? Okay, so wherever our attention goes, the energy flows, right? Anyone, I'm sure you've had a time you walk along and you just see someone staring at you and you can feel it, and they're staring at you, right? And you can feel that energy coming over, and you can feel the stare, and you don't like it and you're uncomfortable, right? But imagine if that same person is smiling and they're looking at you and they're smiling, and you might check if your flies aren't done yet, but you're probably going to smile too, and you're probably going to feel good, and you're probably going to be like, you know, right? And it goes very much the same with cultivating energy. So for example, we can send energy to the heart by directing the attention there, but we can, with these exercises, we can cause energy blockages, right? Any of these exercises can cause energy blockages. But when we smile, what we do is we filter the energy, and we generally will prevent a blockage from forming. I don't know if the pregnant lady is still here today. Just so you know, this exercise is 100% safe for people pregnant, cancer, heart disease, whatever. This is completely safe. It's an exercise that we're going to do. Okay, so I want to invite you to just get yourself somewhere comfortable. And we're going to practice cultivating energy. And what we're going to do is we're going to check in with our organs. We're going to form a little relationship, in fact, with our organs, and we're going to cultivate energy in our main 5 organs. I nearly said orgasms. I've got orgasm on the mind, but I suppose orgasm, right? Okay, yeah. So just check in, make sure, do you know where your organs are, right? Okay, hopefully you know where your heart is. Hopefully you know where your lungs are. Hopefully you know your kidneys are at the back, lower back on each side. At the bottom of the rib cage on your right is your liver. Underneath the rib cage on the left is the spleen. I can forgive you if you don't know where that is. If you don't know where your internal organs are, I highly recommend download a diagram and learn where your organs are. Because if you don't have a relationship with your organs and suddenly you find out one is failing or it's got cancer, you can't be surprised. You neglected it all that time, and now it wants your attention, right? So better give it the attention before it does something. So taking our hands and placing them over the heart, we're going to start with the heart. And what we're going to do is we're going to shut our eyelids. And if you bring your attention to your eyes, you can notice that although your eyes are shut, your eyelids are shut, but obviously your eyes still can see, and you're looking and you can kind of see the back of your eyelids. And now let's turn our attention inward. So just direct your eyes and look inward, back into your brain, looking into your brain. And then start to look down your throat, down into your chest. And try to smile as you're doing this. So if you find it hard to smile, just raise the corners of your lips anyways. Because you'll notice that when you raise the corners of your lips, the corners of your eyes raise too. And that there actually is like a pulling up, kind of very slight pulling up feeling in all of your internal organs. And that even when you smile, there's actually a slight little contraction and pulling up of your pelvic floor. So we want, obviously, our energy to be pulling up that little slight bit, because otherwise you don't want to have your organs and so on prolapsing, right? Do you? So smiling and connecting with your heart. And you can do this as if you're connecting with an old long lost friend. You're smiling there into your heart. And you're sending love, acceptance, unconditional acceptance, and non-judgmental love into your heart. And you can visualize the red energy and the feeling of love. And you can feel that this energy is like a fire. So you're connecting into the fire element, the red color, the feeling of love, and smiling there. And notice what you feel. Often people will get a lovely feeling. Although if you're feeling sadness, you're getting a bad feeling. It actually means you've done something really powerful and that you're releasing some stuck energy. So if you're feeling something that maybe doesn't feel so wonderful, go into that feeling and smile and send love to that feeling. And feel the energy. Don't intellectualize this, what you're doing. If you get a relaxed feeling, a nice feeling, that's all you need. If it helps you to visualize the color, the emotion, do so. But just be in your body, switching off your head and just feeling present in yourself. And now move your hands to the left side and down and place your hands right below your rib cage, at the bottom of your rib cage. And try to connect with your spleen, which is like a small gland. And smiling to your spleen, connect with the elements of earth, with the yellow color, and the feeling of trust. So smiling there, start to feel that yellow energy or whatever you're connecting with there growing. And you can send love to your spleen. You can send love to any of your organs, any part of your body. Send love, feel the trust, feel the yellow energy. And breathe, relax, and smile. And then move your hands up, placing your hands over your lungs, connecting to your lungs and smiling to your lungs. Connecting there with the elements of metal. And it can be like a silvery white color. And the feeling of courage. Smiling and sending love into your lungs. Feel the white energy and the courage is growing and filling and healing your lungs. And then move your hands down to place them at the back on your lower back and smile and connect to your kidneys. Connecting with the element of water, the blue color, and the peaceful feeling. So smiling there. Feel the blue energy growing and send love to your kidneys. And then move your hands to the right side, just on the lower part of your rib cage, and connect with your liver. Smiling to your liver. And connecting with the green energy and the element of wood. Feeling its power. And connecting with the emotion of kindness. Feeling the green energy growing. And then coming back to your heart, smiling again to your heart. Kind of getting a sense how we've gone around collecting red, yellow, white, green and blue energy. And how these are gathering together in our heart. How we've been cultivating and growing these energies. And you can just allow these energies to spread through your body. So maybe move your shoulders, move your legs, move your hands, just allowing these energies to travel into your cells, allowing them to travel out into your aura, to heal and to strengthen your aura. And then bring your attention back to your heart, smiling again into your heart, feeling that beautiful, juicy, red, loving energy. And you can open your eyes, move a little bit, come back. And I know a few people here have done this before. Maybe not everybody has done it. Oh, I know I was still sharing the screen because I wanted people to see the diagram. I'm interested, like either you can put it in the chat, you can send it as a DM if you want to be private, or you can speak. The first thing I'm interested is, did any bad feelings come up for anyone? Because obviously, you know, it's easy to go, oh yeah, smile to your heart and feel love, which I used to always say. And then I realized sometimes when something really powerful happened, we actually felt things that weren't so nice. So I don't know if anybody wants to say anything, if anybody felt something that maybe surprised them, or if somebody felt something beautiful and good, maybe you noticed different feelings around the different organs. I'm interested to hear, like, what did you experience? Oh, interesting. Somebody in Instagram says they cried when they connected with the liver. And basically, we say in Chinese medicine that tears are the emission of the element of wood. So tears come from the liver and they come from anger. So the kidneys released shock and felt cold and shaky. So we say each element, so there's a lot more to all this stuff. For example, each element has something like heart has heat, kidneys has cold, yeah? Kidneys hold a lot of trauma. So that makes sense. A double shiver-like feeling. And when was that the double shiver-like feeling happened? in the liver. Yeah. Spleen had a mini cramp. And when we start understanding, like, you know, because I'm sure I doubt anybody here has never heard about, you know, emotions being connected to sickness or, you know, something like that. But when we start looking like more into depth, and there's all these layers of it, where, for example, you know, taking like one organ, like, for example, if you take the heart, it's got these emotional correspondences. It's also relating to, for example, the nervous system and the blood flow, the tongue, the sense of speech, the liver is connecting up into the eyes. So yeah, the liver, so something there going on in the liver, some blocked energy. Some tears came into my eyes when connecting with the heart, but it was a beautiful feeling of being emotionally moved. I felt as if heart is my best friend, being there for me all the time. I had something happen. I'm going to share, and I'm going to be vulnerable, because I had something happen when I was just doing this with you guys. Yeah, happy energy is flowing. So what happened for me, right, was I have like a bunch of different teachers, but there's one particular teacher who passed away this year. It was a, you know, obviously, like, it's very sad when someone you've really loved, been your teacher and everything, is no longer with us, you know. And he specifically was the person who taught me this thing, that even by raising the corners of the lips, it actually sends a message to the whole body, and there's raising up. And it was like, as I did it, I felt like some energy from him just coming into me just then, yeah, which was quite powerful, actually. And wow, yeah, I felt that same like happy teary feeling actually that you're talking about, Claudia. It was like, wow, yeah, it was quite an amazing feeling. And I mean, this is like the most simple, basic of all the Tao exercises, imagine, yeah, and still we can have like really powerful, profound stuff happen just by learning to like smile to the organs. Like, I have a video on my YouTube. There's a playlist on my YouTube. It's called Meditations. The YouTube is called The Art of the Bedchamber, like everything else. So I'm almost finished with my tea now. I might need to go get another drink in a moment. We're on, oh my God, we're getting close to 2 hours again. Let's get on to the next slide. Oh, go on.
Is this a 2-hour event or a 1-hour event?
Well, it's who knows. 5 a.m. when we're still here and I'm still talking and I'm got a sore throat. I hope someone's going to bring me some lemon and honey. I was suggested by widening the eyes, a smile is automatic. I guess you feel weird when you widen your eyes. I never heard that before. And it works. It kind of blew my mind that when I smiled, I could actually feel the subtle lift in my pelvic floor. I know, I mean, this stuff, like, you just go into layers and layers and layers of it, and it just gets crazier and crazier and crazier. There's probably 1 or 2 people here that can kind of talk about this. Yeah, I mean, it's mad here when you start seeing how all different things are like connected up and everything. It just, trust me, it just gets madder and crazier from yeah, as we go. So hello, Instagram. I know I'm ignoring you, but this is going to be all later on YouTube. You'll be able to see it all there, and on Facebook, but it'll be on YouTube. So right, let's move on. Yeah, because unfortunately, or we can say fortunately, right, everything is not always love and light and peace and joy and happiness and balance, right? Well, if it was all happiness and love and light, it would not be balanced, right? Because the negative balances the positive. But we live on a negative plane, right? The earth is negative. The feminine is negative. Negative does not mean bad. Positive does not mean good. Yeah. But the positive is way up there in the universe. So because we're sitting on the negative plane, we don't need to sit here thinking, oh, I'm going to have to work to increase my anger. I'm going to have to work to increase my fear. It's there. That said, if you actually have no anger, no fear, this is not a good thing. This is not a healthy thing. We actually talk about like lack of anger, lack of fear in Chinese medicine, that it's like a pathology, right? We need to have a healthy connection, because what happens if you repress your anger so well, you probably won't have any healthy boundaries, and you'll be walked all over by people, and you'll go from being all repressed to basically flying into rages, which is exactly where I used to be until I learned to embrace my anger. And in that, I found healthy boundaries, and I also found a lot of creativity in there as well. So they're more complex. The negative are more complex, but they each have they each have like a gift inside them. So it's really important to have a good relationship with the negative, because they're always going to be there. We don't want to like run away from them, because it's not beneficial, right? Now, right, let's just look at a couple of techniques. We could be talking about negative emotions for hours. Let's not go too much into this yet. Let's just look at two of these here. Let's look at what we're going to look at tomorrow in more detail when we go more into sexual transmutation. And we're going to look at, just now, we're going to look at the heart, the element of fire, and we're going to look at water and the kidneys, the element of water and the kidneys. We're going to look at the blue and the red. And by the way, the sexual energy and sexuality, it's coming from the kidneys, if that makes sense to you, because the Jing, it's kind of stored in your kidneys. Now, someone asked that question about Jing, right? Okay, just to say one more thing, right? When you have like a litter of puppies, right? And some of them are going to be big, they're climbing all over the mummy, stealing the milk, you've got the odd little runt, maybe one or two dies. Yeah, those little runts have got low Jing. Yeah, we say the ones that are big and strong, they've got lots of Jing. Signs of like having that your Jing is weak, it can be like that you're infertile as well. That's like a sign of the Jing not going right as well. Anyways, Jing, kidneys, the Jing kind of comes from the kidneys, basically. The sexual energy is all related there. So that orgasmic energy, it relates to the kidneys. The love energy, obviously, it relates to the heart. Someone just mentioned back there about coldness, right? So the coldness, it comes from the kidneys, or we can say the cold is what kind of gathers in the kidneys. But if we get too cold, we actually can get the kidneys damaged. And that's why they say cover your ankles and your lower back. That's where the cold goes in and gets into the kidneys, because the kidney meridians are very open around the ankles. So that's why they say when you got your period, especially, make sure you keep warm, you cover your ankles, you cover your lower back. I think a guy not that long ago who went to the South Pole, and he actually became unwell, was airlifted back, and he did actually die of kidney failure caused by the cold. So each of these has got a sound, like a healing sound, that's a powerful sound to transform the energy. So when we have like a lot of fear, it's too much, it's overwhelming, we want to transform it, we want to bring that emotional vibration of the kidneys back into balance. There is a sound, and that sound is, you can say it's like chew, like I'm going to chew my food, but we say it like a wave breaking. So it's like shh. So do you want to try, and we'll do this like a shh. Okay. And the heart, it has a sound, right? So that sound actually takes the excess cold out of the kidneys and balances the fear. So the heart, the heart is normally hot, right? But if we get too much heat in the heart, well, we can overheat and we can actually have heart attacks and die. Apparently, there's been quite a few people this last summer with the heart having a heart attack in the hot weather, so they say anyways. The sound for the heart, and this one I find is really interesting. I don't know what country people are from, but in England, we've got this tree called hawthorn, which is a herb also that's very, very good for the heart. Hawthorn. In May, you see them everywhere, these trees completely covered in white flowers for about a month. Hawthorn, with my lovely British accent, hawthorn. And the sound for the heart is H-A-W, like. Do you want to try it? And it's not about making these sounds or saying these sounds really loud, but it's about making the energetic vibration inside of the organ. So if you focus into your heart and you say, and just see if you can notice a vibration in your heart. And another crazy thing is do this one more time. And this time, put your hand in front like this. And then move back to your kidneys. Place your hand over the kidneys, one hand over the kidneys. We're going to do the chew sound and put the hand here as you do the chew. Did anyone notice anything there with that? Different temperature, maybe? Feels hot. Feels cold, right? Yeah, one is cold and one is hot. So there's a relationship between the kidneys, the bladder, the bones, the bone marrow, the brain, the sexual energy, the we say the bone marrow, yeah, the brain, the ears, the sense of hearing. They connect together, yeah. Yeah, so if the sounds, don't do them too often. I would say give it a break. You know, you don't need to do it like, you know, if you do it, I think 3 times in a row is good. But that's great if you feel warmth building in your kidneys, because the kidneys are super important. If your kidneys get too cold, if there's a lot of trauma in your kidneys, you'll get cold a lot. Your kidneys will be cold a lot. Getting that trauma out of your kidneys is really important. The kidneys, like, okay, imagine we say this in Chinese medicine, like if you get some really, really bad sickness here, so say like, imagine you get hit by like yellow fever, right? You know, which is like 50-50 live or die. Yeah, for a lot of us, probably, right? You get hit by yellow fever, right? Whether you're going to live or die has a lot to do with how strong are your kidneys. You know, and obviously the kidneys can get battered from like substance misuse. They can also get battered from trauma if you have traumas and you're misusing substances. You know, a lot of what we're doing in the sexual practices, ultimately it comes down to what we're doing is we're refining our Jing. Yeah, so to give an example, might be for, if you guys probably know about semen retention, okay, to transmute and move and take the sexual energy, which has a lot more to do than just not ejaculating. What you learn to do is take that sexual energy, move it up your spine, move it up into your brain, move it down into your organs. You can feed it into your organs, but then as a man, you would take that and you would put that into your kidneys to get nice, strong kidneys. As women will often put it in the liver or the spleen, or you can put them into any organ, but the kidneys, it's really important to build up your kidneys. Also, there's this thing that when you die, apparently if you want, to go up to live in the stars and become a star, literally become a star, you need to have, basically we're born with like 100 Jing, yeah. And I think 50% of that goes for the body, 50% of that should maybe go to sex and reproduction, and 25%, and 25, we want to still have 25% of that Jing intact when we die, because that does this kind of space rocket effect and like blasts us up into the universe so we can become a star. Yeah. I know that might sound kind of mad, or it might make sense too. I don't know. Yeah. But this is like when you get deep into some of the very advanced Taoist practices, this is actually you want to save, you want to really, this is what we as Taoists do, like this, say for example, you don't even want to like drink coffee because it overstimulates your adrenal gland. So constantly you want to not have your adrenal gland overstimulated, right? You want to be in a really, really relaxed state, really not in flight or fight. You definitely don't want to experience sexual energy in flight or fight. And getting back to the premature ejaculation question, if you're ejaculating prematurely, you're kind of in flight or fight. So to have this kind of experience, you would not want to be in flight or fight. That says, if you do all these exercises and you do these practices, you're going to find you just can control exactly when. And that's the thing. It's not about not. Yeah, it's not about not ever ejaculating. It's about just having control of what goes on in your body. Hey, if you're a woman and you want to not have sex and not have an orgasm, that's totally your choice here. But you want to be able to have an orgasm if you want. You want to be able to ejaculate. You don't want to just be controlled by not, you know? So it brought up a memory of when I had my son afterwards. I had adrenal shock. This is powerful stuff. This is really, really powerful stuff. So it's not altogether that surprising. So, okay, this is fine. We don't need to look into this, but we can manifest good health with these exercises. And love, right? Love is super, super duper juicy, important. Yeah, the fact is, yeah, this is all about like what I do when I take my clients through the program. This is all about going in your body, right? You know, finding out what's going on in your body, getting to know yourself and falling madly crazy, deeply in love with ourselves. Now, we smiled to the heart. This is really, really important. Tomorrow, we're going to learn to feed the heart with sexual energy as well, to grow love, you know, and there are so many ways and so many lessons about growing love. And we talked about, I think, yesterday, and I'm going to go back into this, that basically, you know, when we're programmed with this poverty mindset where we're not putting ourselves first, we're thinking we need to give everything away, we're thinking we need to do things for other people, even when we're just looking at things in terms of the physical, like thinking, oh, I'm going to just overwork myself, or I'm not going to invest in like my own well-being, you know, doing too many hours and kind of trying to make money but not giving this body, you know, loving this actual body. There's a real effect, because there's an absolute magic to love, because love, as we know, is this fire energy. And when we are actually got a nice strong field of that love, it's able to really, really eliminate that fire, burns away a lot of stuff that would otherwise be like messing us up. So it's very important to be in love with ourselves. So your heart is the container of love in your body. Manifesting with love from a pure heart will balance the results of anything you wish for. So when we're cultivating energy, it's really pretty important to have a really strong vibration of love over that. The heart is essential for sexual transmutation too. It's like the big stopping point along the way. And that is because for the sexual energy to transmute, it must travel up into your heart. And it is essential for your heart to be open to do this. The first exercise in Taoist alchemy is to learn to smile to your heart and open the energy field. It is essential to have a relationship with your own heart and open it for this to work. And Master Chia focuses on love as an essential part of Taoist energy work. As we are working with powerful energies, it is essential to balance them with love. And actually, we say in Taoism that don't try and love other people. Don't try and give love. Okay. A lot of people say, okay, Taoists are selfish. The thing is that, you know, I remember before I used to love myself, and now when I am in love with myself, and if you ask people, okay, don't get me wrong, there are people from my past who absolutely do not like me doing well and have got funny at me about it, but people who are my friends absolutely prefer me and prefer being around the me who's in love with myself, as opposed to the me that was all insecure and you know, stuck in all my dramas and all my kind of self-hatred, and you know, not having confidence in myself, not investing in myself, and so on. And I actually remember around the time that I had decided to start doing the Tao exercise, and I was actually, I think the main number one motivator was my cannabis addiction. Even though I wasn't smoking as much as some people do, I was feeling like I knew it wasn't doing me good, you know, and I kind of went away and I avoided people for a bunch of months, and I got crazily into the whole practice. And someone's not muted there. And when I kind of then came back and started seeing people were like, oh, what's going on? You've changed, you're different. And I'm like, oh yeah, you know, because like I've been doing this thing called the microcosmic orbit, and like I don't smoke weed anymore, and like I'm getting like more high off this microcosmic orbit thing than like I ever got off smoking weed. And people were just like, what's she on about, you know? And then after a little bit longer, people were kind of looking and they're like, hang on a minute, what is going on with her? And then people were like, oh, now I want to learn, right? And I think definitely, and this came up yesterday with partners, right? And I don't mind going a little bit further into this whole thing of like, if somebody else wants to ask about what do we do if we're doing this stuff and the partner isn't into it. That was a question that came up yesterday, and I'm happy to go into it a little bit more. So let's look at the key points of today. I think I forgot to even go over the key points yesterday, actually, but the body is perfectly programmed to keep us healthy and happy. Cultural programming blocks the energy by creating belief systems that contradict our natural flow. A lack of healthy processing of emotions causes chaos in our energy system. Taoist excuse me, do you know that when you cultivate energy, you can kind of burp and hiccup? That was a little hiccupy thing, but that's often goes on when you're cultivating energy. So Taoist inner alchemy is designed to systematically remove the blockages without going into the story. By working in the energy field, years of emotional debris, including severe traumas, can be cleared. It is essential to do this work before raising the energy. Otherwise, you can cause energy blockages to get worse, which can result in physical and mental problems. I mean, one of my friends, a dear friend, right, and he discovered the book of Mantak Chia when he was 17, started trying to practice this thing, which is more or less jerking off while squeezing your perineum, which a lot of guys seem to kind of read that book, find that exercise, try to do that one thing. And he really caused himself a health problem, and he actually ended up having to go all the way to China and finding this healer. And the guy still to this day is not a happy bunny when Chia's name gets mentioned, right? I mean, it does say at the front of the book not to try it on your own, but I suppose people are going to try things and, you know, not understand what the exercises are about. So yeah, it can amplify your weirdness. So the reason so many tantra teachers are being accused of abuse. I think there was B. Schofield, if people know B. Schofield, and she's written an article about it. Just seems like basically almost every single tantra teacher or whatever is like done this or accused of that or whatever, you know. And when you think like these are people like, you know, I think when we look at like us specifically as Westerners, like I was just talking the other day to like a Hindu Indian client about this, like so many Westerners are getting these problems with Kundalini, you know. And I think we find these like Eastern practices, but we kind of interpret them with a Western mind, and we try to do them in a Western way, thinking it's just about the physical, when like the energy, it's an energy exercise, you know. So yeah, I think it's definitely, I mean, I'm glad that when I found the books and the exercises, I went off and I found some teachers and started like learning, and ended up like learning from like quite a few different people, and so on. And obviously, you know, getting other people's experiences, like helping us out, is definitely like super important. So I want to just like open up for people to ask any questions. You can put them in the chat, you can put them publicly, you can put them privately, you can speak up. You can yeah. Yeah. I don't know if anyone who's here that has done these exercises might have any words of wisdom for the people that are maybe new to them, or any questions coming up on Instagram up here.
Jade, with the sounds that you were talking about for the different organs, like you mentioned, you only need to do them a few times. But is that like in a day, or like several times a day, only a few times? You know, how can you give a little more specificity on the timing of when to use them?
Okay. There's a whole 20-minute long meditation that involves these sounds, right? And this is what I teach people in week 4. Like what I said, like what we're doing here is I'm just giving like little tidbits to help to understand what it's about. But if you really want to get the benefits, you know, like a free event like this is not going to give you like the full experience and the full benefits, you know, because this is like complex stuff. It's got to be taught over a period of time. And obviously, like, you know, I don't want to see you guys in 10 years time still like trying to grab freebies and just stuck in the same place and whatever, not really getting anywhere with where you're going. So like I definitely recommend, like you know, this is like when I teach this exercise to people, it's about they've already done 3 other weeks of exercises. I think even when if I show the whole exercise to someone that hasn't done the previous weeks, it can be like a little bit confusing. And the way I work with the teaching is that we start with the simple exercises and we build one on the next, on the next, on the next, to kind of like build up. And I mean, interestingly enough, these sounds, like they're really, really central, like to the whole way of doing the whole Taoist practices, because these Taoist practices, they all come together like as a set. So for example, the smiling meditation, which we did, which I definitely think like that's a good thing to start. You've got this there in the recording. You've also got that there on my YouTube channel. You can find that there as well. I mean, there's even like some of them, like that. There's one exercise, the microcosmic orbit, which I even realized some people just did the microcosmic orbit just off of a video and even ended up getting like energy problems, like from doing just that off the video without having done the other exercises as well. So yeah, so that's like, yeah, that's week 4 where I end up like teaching those whole exercises and how to do like this whole meditation basically. So I definitely like encourage people, like I've actually got so I've got the program, like I do, obviously, like I do it with some high ticket clients. I also do it with clients that are coming in a group where it's like a lower investment. I actually got like a couple of scholarships like available. So they are like partial scholarships where you get like actually quite a big reduction in the price on the 15-week program. I also have like a membership that even if people like really want to like invest less, that is an option. Obviously, you're going to go through everything like much slower. You're going to have the experiences of the transformation much slower. I mean, I have to say, like, I know, look, when you think, oh my God, I'm going to spend a bunch of money on myself, yeah, it can be scary, yeah, it can really, really be frightening. I remember the first time Well, I spent like 15 grand, so $15,000. I was saying about this yesterday. I spent $15,000 on this one coach, yeah. And it wasn't even, it was scary, but it wasn't even scary of me thinking like the coach isn't good. Yeah, I knew that she was good. It was like me thinking, maybe I am not good enough. Maybe I'm not worthy. Maybe this isn't going to work for me, you know? And obviously she could have given me all that help without me paying. Would I have got the benefit? No. I mean, I think that there's a massive like magical thing that happens when we actually go, do you know what? Yeah, I'm going to like invest in myself. And of course, look, I didn't have that 15,000, by the way, at the time when I realized I wanted to get her as a coach, you know. And she's like very, very good. She's literally like one of the best. I didn't have that, but we human beings, we are resourceful. And I do think that when we actually decide to take that step, you know, that step that's going further than just, you know, I don't know, than just maybe sitting in a place being scared, being like, oh my God, I'm only having this much money coming in. Oh my God, you know, I'm scared that if I spend money on myself, that whatever is going to go wrong in my life. And trust me, look, when I left home, I went through a period of literally being homeless, like going in homeless shelters, like as a teenager, living on the street. I had this crazy older boyfriend that was like attacking me, exploiting me. Like, you know, I went through this like hellish experience of like not having money. And understandably, when I got out of that situation, I had like a big trauma around like not having money. So the money thing, like definitely like it's something I've had to do like a huge amount of healing around. Like I've been in this situation where I'm kind of like just living in like a massive lack mentality, thinking, oh, if I invest in myself, I'm gonna, you know, and somehow healing from that, going into this point of like of basically like thinking that I'm worth it and thinking that I'm worth investing in. And actually this coach that I mentioned has been like a really, really like important part of like really making me understand, like, you know, a lot of people will say, oh, but if something's spiritual, it should be free. Well, the church is free. Well, it's not even free. It's ripped off a lot of people, to be honest, but look what that's done to people, you know, as well. So I would definitely say like get in touch with me. Like I do have a lot of different options. Obviously, I'm going to say like contact me about one of these partial scholarships I've got on now. Literally like that's just, I've got 3 of those. It's just available like for a few days now. You know, and I would encourage you, like obviously you've had an experience, you guys have like felt cool stuff going on. This is the beginning of something, and I do this because partly I want you to experience what's going on, but I also want you to see the potential really of like where you can go and where you can end up in this. And tomorrow we're going to be going like further into that and more deeply into that, and we're going to start to really experience what this whole thing yeah, that was a really interesting point that you just put there, right? Which is some of my clients are actually like professional sports people, and I teach them how to do these exercises and optimize their energy and actually like put it into sports. So we can do this stuff, we can put it into sports, we can do it into business. One guy that I don't think he's here today, but he did like the first 4 weeks of my program. He started off, he was on literally a minimum wage job. Within 4 weeks, he turned a hobby, his hobby, which was photography, into a business. He was making more money out of that business. And I'm not a business coach, although I'm actually, oh, I'll just share this now, although I'm going to go into it tomorrow a bit more. But once he cleared his energy out and everything was working a bit better, his destiny started to unfold for him. And yeah, just to mention, I said I'm not a business coach, but I'm just about to open now, including for people that have completed the program with me already and people who want to, that I'm basically going to start doing a teacher training. So it's going to involve teaching you how to do this stuff yourself, teaching you how to teach it to other people, how to help other people with their different energy blocks, how to understand those energy blocks. I certainly am going to teach you as well how to put this across and actually market it to people in a juicy way. So you're pulling in like the right clients, and you're doing it in a way that's not like fear-based, but it's actually, you know, and sometimes we need to give people a kick up the ass. I don't really want to have to say to you guys, to people, what I just said. Yeah, part of me would rather not say it, but I know from my own experience, I know from the transformations I've experienced when I decided to do something that seemed tough, something that was like terrifying me, you know. And yes, sometimes the fear we need to listen to, but I also sometimes that can be a blockage. And I think especially it comes down to that with us women. I mean, I think that when I started getting to a certain point with the women's group I'm in now, which was maybe around the 7 or 8 week, right? And we start realizing the dynamics that go on within our society. And look, my opinion is patriarchy oppresses everyone. It's not, men aren't benefiting. Look at the high rates of suicide, mental illness, unhappiness, and so on going on amongst men. Patriarchy is not even about men necessarily controlling women or oppressing women. It's an oppression of our real or authentic true self. But this is kind of the energy that women bring to humanity. So for sure, we as women, we have like heavy amounts of healing. And when we start, first of all, we heal the body. And when we start going into healing the sexual organs, doing things like massaging our breasts, clearing the traumas out of our vaginas, which is a number of weeks that we're working on that. And we start realizing things that are like going on around us. And some of it is a little bit of a wake up where we're just a bit like, you know, and you kind of think, well, okay, now it makes sense why, you know, women have, is it 30% of the wealth is owned by women, 70% is owned by men, right? When we look at the way women have been sexually oppressed, women, probably millions of women, have literally been killed and put to death for things like cheating on their husbands, enjoying sex. Like, it's absolutely insane the way, you know, that women have been sexually oppressed. And what happens when we're not in our pleasure? What happens? And me, like, never having had an orgasm. And what happened with me then? I wasn't in my power. I couldn't see where I was going. I was lost. I didn't know what was going on in my life. Not to say I'm perfect. Nobody's perfect, you know. I'm just doing the best I can. But the whole difference probably between me and maybe even like someone I talk to who's telling me that they're on minimum wage and they're scared of, you know, investing like £72 a week in my membership program. The difference between me and them is just that I have these tools, and that something inside me made me realize I need to wake up. I need to start doing this stuff. I need to change something, because it got, for me, I had this point of actually, I'll be honest about this and laugh at me if you want, yeah, but I smoked a joint, right? It was an evening, I smoked a joint. I went to the cash machine. I left £300 in the cash machine, and I walked off, and then I realized I'd left £300. I don't know who got it or whatever, but you know, it really was like, whatever you're doing with your life, like what is going on? And, you know, all around that time, everything, because the thing is, the universe is constantly giving us everything that we need to get to where we want. You know, none of us, we live in a very, very abundant world here. None of us should be sitting around thinking, worrying about whatever XYZ. This is not because of abundance, right? This is not about, you know, we here, like Western people living in the Western world, this is not about, you know, we're not starving in a whatever, you know, there's a famine, I think, going on in Somalia at the moment. We're not in the wherever in Somalia start having starvation, you know, and even plenty of people there obviously manage to like make pretty good lives for themselves. Anyways, you know, we're in a place where we have like a lot of resources to us. We have a lot of advantages. And when we're in the kind of mentality of, I mean, I mentioned about giving this 15 grand to this coach. And, you know, I come from a family where that was probably more than a year's wages for my dad back in the 90s, you know, and he raised a family of 7 on that kind of money. So basically it's like a lot of money. But, you know, it was just a transformation, and all these different things, like our time, our energy, our effort, everything, you know, we're putting things in. And yeah, there's the physical world. There's the, oh, do I have the £5,000 in my bank, or do I take the £5,000 and do I put it into whatever that I want to put it into, you know? So yeah, I definitely recommend, like, for example, that you know, reach out, get in touch, let's have a chat. I think you can contact me, like, however you found out about this. There's going to be emails coming out inviting you for a 15-minute chat with me. And like, I mean, the reason I started teaching this stuff was when I had this experience of being like, all these health problems, all these money problems, never having had an orgasm, being stuck in this metaphysical puddle of mud, not going anywhere and miserable, to activating my energy and just being like, my God. And it was, first of all, looking at all the women around me and being like, no wonder we women are so disempowered. We're not connecting to our pussies. We're not having orgasms. We're not in touch with the emotions, you know? So, yeah, I definitely recommend, like, do something about this. Don't stop thinking that you aren't important. Stop thinking you're not important to invest in it, and do something that's really going to change your life, because I want to see you change your life. But I know fully well, if I give something for free, and this was when I first finished my Chinese medicine degree, I started giving people acupuncture for free. And then I got really pissed off because I would give someone acupuncture and I would say, you mustn't take any drugs or alcohol for at least 3 days. They'd go off the next day, get drunk, call me up being like, oh my God, I had like 2 beers and I was like completely sick and vomiting the whole night, which I told them not to do because they didn't appreciate what I was doing, because they hadn't put the investment in, they hadn't put the magic in, you know? So the magic is there on so many levels, but when we decide to start interacting it and start taking the gifts that the universe is literally giving to us all the time, what we need, but most of the time, and yep, I've done it, most of the time, I've often turned away things that were really helpful to me and not understood what they were. So yeah. Yeah, and I think, you know, it goes through every level. It goes through so many different levels of our being. You know, we can be like doing these exercises, and we do the exercises, we start with it, and then we start to bring the exercises into our life. So you might spend a week or two sitting there smiling to your organs in the dark, not wanting any noise to bother you. Before long, you want to be sitting on the bus smiling to your organs. You want to be at work and smile to your organs. You know, when you get as far as the microcosmic orbit, which is like week 6, you want to be actually doing the microcosmic orbit and basically just sitting at work, which eventually you can start doing after some months of like practicing it. But this is about getting these tools and getting these tools that we can then bring into our life, so that instead of just living in the disempowered state that most people are in, we're actually living in a life where we're to be able to create what we really, really want for ourselves. So do we have any questions? We've been 2 hours, 20 minutes so far. So tomorrow we're going to be going into looking at what is this thing with the sexual energy and how do we start connecting them together. And when we work on this, we work on it on many different layers in many different ways. What we're going to do tomorrow is we're going to create a spiritual connection between the sexual energy and the love energy, and we're going to look at what sexual transmutation is about. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about like the teacher training that I'm doing, my program, the membership. If you want to know anything about it, do feel free to like get in touch with me and message me. I'm happy to share more. And if you haven't got the genital reflexology sheet, do make sure to find that there in the chat. Hey, love, who are you? Who is love? Can you turn the mic on? Can you speak, please? Hello? Okay, because like I actually kicked you out of here yesterday for making an inappropriate comment. I would like you to contact me personally and speak to me, because I know that you're also on my membership on my website, and the comment you made yesterday was really inappropriate. And like, it's not right that I should have had to stop in the middle of what I was doing and ask you and kick you actually out of this. And I know that you've come to my free events before and like done stuff that's really, really inappropriate as well. So I want to ask you, like, either contact me directly or don't come to my things anymore, because yeah, that was really inappropriate what you said, and you've done inappropriate things like this in the past. So I don't know who you are. You're just using the name Love. You're there on my website as like a member, and I've asked you to put the picture up. You haven't done it. And you know, people should be comfortable and not having you say weird things to them, basically. So yeah, anyways.